And then we come to the time when Ken French comes here, and he has the office next to me, and we start working together, and I figure, here's a guy that's got incredible energy. He can keep my reputation going for another 25 years. So I hooked up with him, incredibly smart guy, same work habits I do, and we just work together very well. And the end result, not the end result, we're still writing papers, but one of the big results was this, this paper that we wrote in 1992 called The Cross-Section of Expected Stock Returns, which I never expected to get published because there's nothing new in there. There's absolutely nothing new in there. All we did was to take previous so-called anomalies and put them all together in one place. So what had happened? Well, the CAPM came along in 1965. People didn't start testing it until the early 1970s. So there were papers by Farmer McBath, Black, Jensen, Scholes, other people that tested the CAPM. And the initial tests looked like they gave pretty good support to the model. And then kind of in the early 1980s, we started to come across things that were causing embarrassments for the model. But they came up one at a time. One at a time these things came up. And so people looked at them one at a time and said, one thing, that's not too bad. So all we did was put them all together and say, look, this thing just doesn't work. And then came this, this so-called three-factor model, which was meant basically to capture the problems the CAPM seemed to be having with small stocks and with explaining the difference between value and growth stock returns. Now this is a good example of the conundrum posed by the joint hypothesis problem. So we developed this model to explain the size and value growth phenomenon, but then immediately a controversy arises. Lakonishuk, Slifer, and Vishny say, and others say, nah, this isn't a risk return story, this is just market inefficiency. And basically, the joint hypothesis problem says, based on that data alone, and based on any data I've seen since then, you really can't tell one story from another. Okay, I was going to say something about my research philosophy, but I'll skip that. Well, I'll say it. Why not? What's my research philosophy? Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Do things that people can understand. That's easy for me because I'm a simple-minded guy. If I can understand it, almost anybody can understand it. And my good friend David Booth told me 20 years ago, every business is 50% marketing. And academic business is not an exception. It's at least 50% marketing. The way you write has as big an impact on your impact in the world as a whole as what you actually do. So saying things clearly and simply is going to get you much further. The words, where did market efficiency, efficient markets come from? You won't see them in my thesis. They're not there. You won't see them in any other work up until that point. I popped them into this little paper that I wrote for Capital Ideas for the school. That's the first appearance of them. And then that paper got picked up by all these professional journals, and the term caught on. But that's where it developed. It didn't exist up until, it hadn't been used up until that point. So coming up with the name gives me a lot more credit for what was actually done than I deserve. Okay, we talked about this, we talked about that, we talked about that. Here are all the papers I wrote. I told you there are 15 of them, right? Did that? Okay, I'm done.